Okay. So would you like to debate that?
Like my normative ethical view, or the way that my normative ethical view applies to abortion?
We can just debate your abortion position, and obviously you're going to apply your normative ethical view. And I could just
So the
maybe
debate is
question
just
a little
over.
bit
We
the
can just
ethical
debate
view.
my normative ethical view if you want.
Or we can just debate. Well, just to be clear, is that the only reason you have towards your abortion position?
Your normative views are the reason you have your applied ethical views. So
No,
yeah.
your one ethical view when it comes to normativity. Is that the only reason that
Yeah,
you
like
have
the
towards
view and
abortion?
normativity you take determines your applied ethical views.
Yeah, so one view when it comes to
Yeah,
normative
but
ethics
what
doesn't have to be your
is it two?
overall view when it comes to normative ethics. So would you like to debate abortion or just specifically egoism?
We're just gonna talk about egoism either way. So let's just talk about egoism.
All right, sure. All right, restart the recording, someone.
It was already restarted.
Like what? Oh.
All right,
Let
go
me know
ahead.
when we rolling, guys. Oh, awesome.
So do you have an argument?
Yeah, my view is that my.
I'm sorry, I think I asked for the argument.
I'm giving you an argument, Richard. Just slow your roll.
Like, just to
My
be clear,
view-
what you said was, hold on, you started off with your view. I'm asking for the argument.
The views you take are the argument. All right, bro, just lock in.
Wait, well, that's not true. But what's the argument for the view? Just to be
Holy
clear.
shit, bro. You're getting caught in the weeds and we're not even 10 seconds in.
Bro, you were so corny, bro. Just
You're
give the
so
fucking
eager to have
argument.
this conversation. Just
Like, this
hold on.
nigga is so corny, bro. Give the argument.
All right, bro. Look, my
Go
view
ahead.
is that egoism, and the specific kind of egoism I endorse called rational egoism, is the only normative ethical view which is able to establish a continuity between our meta-ethical, a correct meta-ethical view and a normative view.
What's the correct meta-ethical view here?
It's a specific account of moral authority,
Which is?
which is the fact that moral authority is hedonic.
What does that mean?
What does hedonic mean, or what does moral authority mean?
What does moral authority as hedonic mean?
Wait,
If you knew what
chill.
each of those words mean, you would know what the. All right.
I'm sorry, but someone
Right.
interrupted you. But go ahead, define both.
Who's like
No,
the
I'm trying
retard
to
piping
defend
up when
your side.
Well,
Yeah, you
bro,
are,
chill.
retard.
We're
That's
having
like
a
the
debate.
problem.
I understand that, but we're having a debate. Thank you, bro. But go ahead, Divinity.
So what word were you confused as? Like, did you know what
Look, it
moral
wasn't
authority
confusion.
meant?
I'm just questioning what both means to you.
What hedonic means?
And moral authority.
Okay. Hedonic refers to a kind of phenomenal experience in which your experiences are laced with an inherently motivating or demotivating character, the chief examples of which being pleasure and pain. You can also refer to those as what's called affective states, affective with an A. Now, moral authority is the character behind goodness, badness, and morality more broadly, which binds you to follow the norms and rules of a moral code.
Okay, you done?
That's what both those words mean.
Okay, give the argument.
For what premise?
Wait, hold on. That was all the premises put together. That's it?
Well, it would follow that if my view is the only one that establishes.
Okay, so hold on.
the
Just to be clear, ignoring what you're saying currently, what's the argument for both P1 and P2?
Do you know what P1 and P2 are?
What's the argument for both P1 and P2?
Do you know what P1 and P2 are?
I'm sorry, what's the argument for both P1 and P2? I don't care
Can you
about the
even
rainbow.
reproduce premise one?
Can you please give the argument for P1 and P2?
Do you know what P1 is? Because that's
Look,
not gonna
I'm
make
sorry.
sense if you
Look,
don't know
you
what it
keep
is.
on trying to story off because you don't have an actual motivation. What's the
I'm just
argument?
trying to establish clarity for what you want me to
Look,
argue.
that's fine. I don't care about your clarity currently. What's the argument for
It's
P1?
for you, bro. The clarity's for you.
Look, that's fine. What's the argument for P1?
Because look, we're like three
I'm
questions
sorry,
away
what's the
from you
argument for
telling me
P1?
that the set of all contingent things is God. So just give me.
Look, that shit was
Like,
ass,
you
my
want
nigga. Like, you
to-
keep on bringing up past
It
shit,
was
bro.
ass. You're right, bro.
Like, that shit is
was
not
ass.
rhetorical at
Indeed, it
all. The
was.
reason why it's ass is
Indeed,
because
it was.
you're saying it, not because it came out of my mouth. So what's the fucking argument, retard? For P1 and
premise
P2.
one?
Don't try to... Hold on. Go ahead.
Do you remember what premise one was? Because I'll tell you.
Okay, brother, look, just give the argument for P1. I don't know why you're trying to stray off. Actually, I do know why you're
I'm
trying to
just
stray
trying to
off
make
to
sure
other
that you
topics.
understand my argument before I give.
Wait,
the
that's
premise
fine. Look,
defending
just be
the
clear.
argument.
Just because I heard P1, because you're saying I don't recall it. If I don't recall
not
it, does
saying
not
that. I'm
mean...
just asking you to
Wait, I'm sorry. I don't think I was
reproduce
done.
it so we can be clear.
But even if I did recall it,
weren't
that doesn't
done.
mean I don't understand it or I do understand it. So is it the case that you're trying to recognize
You
whether or
understand
not I
something you
recall
can't
it?
recall?
Or is it the case that you're trying to recognize whether or not I understand it? Because those are two different things.
You have like a barrier between your understanding and your recollection.
Yes, actually. Everybody has a barrier. But
That
what's
means
the
you're
argument for
retarded, by
P1
the
though?
way,
I'm
but-
sorry, what's the argument
Alright,
for
bro.
P1?
You can recollect something.
I'm sorry. Look, you can recollect something, and that proves that you heard
Premise,
it. Does
just
that
to
mean that you
clarify, I'll just
understood
give,
X
I'll
thing?
just
No,
give-
it's
I'll
not the
give-
case. It's
I'll
not
just
the
make
case that
sure
you
I
have to
get the-
understand the contents of X thing. For example, the premise, but you can recall
let me know when
it.
you're
So
done,
what's the argument now that you're dropping that point?
I'm just gonna represent my argument and then give the supplementary arguments you're asking.
Look,
for,
so
okay?
what's the argument for P1 and P2?
I'm giving you that.
Look, I don't know if you're
giving you premise
stalling
one
or
and
something
P2.
because someone is DMing you an argument, but please
What?
justify P1 and P2.
I'm trying to give you the main argument so you don't get
Well, I
lost
know what
in
you're
the
trying
arguments I
to,
give.
but I want you to give the argument for P1 and P2 as I already
You gotta
know the
catch a
argument.
bubble, bro.
I don't care
You
about
gotta
you
catch a
asking a
bubble.
question because you can't actually justify your
Infinity,
own
why are
position,
you
retard.
so much, bro? I can give you the argument. Just calm down.
Give the argument for P1 and P2. Go ahead.
I have to give you premise 1 and P2 first. Thanks.
I already know P1 and P2.
No, you
But
don't.
what's the
What is
argument for
premise
P1 and P2? What's the argument for P1 and P2? Stop trying
What's
to reflect.
premise 1?
Gabe, mute your mic.
I'm not going to be able to give you an effective argument for premise 1 if you don't know.
Wait,
what
so
premise
is it
one
the case that even if I were not to recall what you said, you're incapable of giving an argument?
It's going to be pointless for me to give you an argument. For
Wait,
premise
is it the
one.
case? No. Don't back up out of the claim that you made because you're scared.
not
Is it the
backing up
case
from
that me
anything.
not being able to recall
don't know what
P1
I'm
and P2 entails an incapacity to give the argument for P1 and P2?
What are you talking about, bro?
You just said you were incapable of giving the argument for P1 and
So
P2
premise
just
one,
because
sir.
I
So
potentially
premise
didn't recall it.
So presumably don't deny
Hey, can
the
someone
condition.
mute Gabe?
Yeah,
I got you.
So presumably you don't deny the conditional because it's kind of
Presumably
like
you're retarded. What's the argument
the argument for the conditional.
for P1 and P2?
Yeah, premise 1's the conditional. You know that if you knew premise 1.
Look, I never said it wasn't the conditional.
So
I'm
then
just
why were you
clarifying. I want
confused
the
when I
argument for
said the
P1 and P2, retard. Because it
Yeah,
wasn't just the conditional, but also
argument for
P2,
premise
retard.
1 The argument for premise 1 is like, it's
Yeah,
self-defeating
he's
to
finally
deny
getting to it. Go ahead.
It's self-defeating to deny premise 1. It's trivially true.
Wait, hold on. What's the argument for that?
Do you remember premise 1? Because if you knew what it was, you know how.
You already keep asking this question. Look,
Well, 'cause you
just
keep
because
asking me
I can
questions
recall
very
it.
clearly
Hold on, just to be clear.
understanding that
Is
you
it the
don't know
case?
what you're talking
This is what. Hold on, we're going to go back to the
Like, if
original
you knew
thing. Is it the
premise one, you
case
would
that
know
me
why your
not
question doesn't make a lot
understanding
of
or
sense.
knowing P1 potentially entailed that you have a lack of a capacity to give it?
I just want you to understand, like, if you knew premise 1,
Can you
know
answer
why.
the question yes or no? Why are you dodging?
Do you think I'm dodging you right now?
Yes, I definitely think you're dodging. Everybody thinks it actually, but
Everyone
maybe
thinks I'm
they're
dodging,
biased and
despite
they
the
won't
fact
tell you that.
Premise 1 is obviously trivially true.
Yeah, so what's the argument as to why it's obviously trivially true? I don't care about you repeating the claim, retard.
What's the argument that
Look,
mathematical?
the fake laugh is not going to do anything. What's the argument for P1?
It's not fake laugh, bro. I'm like genuinely concerned for your mental well-being.
Look, and you're genuinely retarded. So what's the argument for P1?
Okay, I guess I'll try to explain it to you. The argument for the conditional that a normative theory is true if and only if it has a connection and established
I'm sorry, that wasn't P1.
continuity. Yeah, I'm giving you premise 1, then I'm giving you the argument for it.
But maybe you're retarded. You saying that you're giving me P1 after I denied that being P1 does not entail that was P1. Retard.
What are you talking about?
So you don't even understand basic sentences.
That was a basic sentence.
Yes, correct.
You're so fucking
I'm glad
lost
you're able
right
to
now.
recognize what I said.
Reproduce what you just said, so I'm really clear on what you said.
No.
I really didn't understand it, and I'm trying to humble myself. Just
So if you didn't understand it, hold on, just to be clear, then why did you fake laugh at it as if it was retarded?
because I think it's retarded because I didn't understand it.
You think it's retarded because you didn't understand it.
Yeah, like I don't understand.
So
what
every
retards
one
say
of
when
my
they drool
arguments and
and
every
their
one
tongue
of
is hanging out
everybody
their
whose
mouth and
high
they
levels
spit out,
arguments
like,
are
whatever
retarded
the fuck
because
they
you
do.
have a lack of understanding due to your
Yeah,
retarded
that's why I
ass
said I'm
mind.
trying to humble myself. Just give me what you just said.
Look, so just to be clear, what I said was,
Yeah, man, I'm giving you the stage. It's all yours.
yeah, go ahead. Yeah, so what I said was just because when I say P1 is not what you uttered, you in response say that it was P1 doesn't mean that it was P1. There's no nonsense when it comes to that sentence. Because that's exactly what occurred.
point
I
do you
said it
think
wasn't
you're making
P1.
right now?
I don't know. I said it wasn't P1 as you were delivering it. In response to my comment, you said it was P1
I'm speaking,
as if
actually.
that was supposed to be a defeater.
What point does the conversation what point are
Get
you
it
trying to
out,
make
get
right
it out, get it out. Oh my God, you're almost there with the question. Go ahead,
now? What
Divinity.
point are you trying to make right now relative
The
to my
stage is
argument?
yours.
I just asked you a question.
I heard the question. I'm making sure you're done.
Does like the lion not answer unless they're like asked with please?
I'm
Like,
sorry.
answer
So
the
look, that
question,
shit was
bro.
asked. So ignoring that shitty ass rhetorical fucking tactic, the question
I
was the
heard you. I'm
following.
just making sure you're done, bro.
Look. The question was the following. What's the relevance of what you said
How are
and then
you
the
fucking
argument?
going
That was the
into this?
question.
This is like a
The answer
slam
to your
dunk.
question. I'm sorry. Do you want me to answer your question or do you want me to ignore it?
Sorry, I do want you to answer. Go for it, man.
Okay, so the answer to the question is, if it is the case that that isn't what you initially said, then you're actually delivering a new P1 in which wasn't initially established verbally,
If
at
it's
least.
the case I originally delivered it, then it's the case that I'm now delivering it new, and it wasn't originally.
Wait, just to be clear, the entire
that's a
point of
true
contention is what you.
conditional
Hold on, just to be
infinity. No,
clear.
that was
The
really
entire point of
intelligent.
contention wasn't that
If
you
it was the
initially
case that
delivered
I
it. You
didn't
repeating
say
that you
that, then I
initially
did.
delivered is something that we obviously disagree
If
with.
it was the case that I did say that, then I didn't. That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, that's not what I said, retard. I said if you
That's
did not
exactly
initially
what you
deliver it,
just
then you delivering it currently is irrelevant.
Makes no
Dumbass,
fucking
because that isn't what you initially said. Look, I don't know if you can't track or something. You're doing this on purpose, but you're losing badly, brother. So please respond to the argument, brother.
You gave me an argument.
Look. I don't know if you got worse because you've been hanging around retards like Gabe all day or something, but please give the argument. I'm
Did you
asking
give
for
an
the
argument?
argument for P1 and P2.
Did you give me an argument that I'm supposed to respond to?
What's the argument for P1 and
Oh, this is
P2?
a question. This is a
What's the
question.
argument for
Oh,
P1 and
was it-
P2?
Did you mistake
What's the
question you
argument
asked
for
the
P1 and
argument I'm
P2?
supposed to respond
What's
to?
the argument for P1 and P2?
I'm just trying
Stop
to get
running
clear,
away,
Divinity.
Divinity.
No, if you
Stop
have an
running
argument,
away,
I don't want to
Divinity.
dodge
What's
it.
the
If you
argument?
have an argument, we gotta
Like, oh my God, I have me
I hope-
lowered
I
on my
hope you
own
didn't
rec, and I can
blunder.
hear you rambling. This is
You asked
bad.
the question. I'm rambling?
This is so bad for you. I can hear you rambling under my mic. Are you getting dominated that bad? What's the
I can
argument?
hear you rambling under my mic.
Correct. Because you're getting drowned out by my mic, but I can still hear you
You have a
rambling
way with
because I
words.
lower myself on my recording.
You really
So what's
have
the
a way with
response?
words, man.
I'm sorry, what's the response?
I was giving you the response, but you interrupted me earlier.
You
So,
were not giving me the response to the initial question. What you were doing was rambling.
Yeah, so given that, what it means to be
Given
a
what?
good-
I'm sorry, I don't know what that is since multiple things have been said, retard.
Oh, so it's almost like you need clarity?
Just to be clear, if multiple things
The
have been
clarity
said
that
and then
you
you
just allow
use
me to
a
give
lack of
you?
clarity when it comes to a
So
word,
the lack of
obviously
clarity
I don't know
that
what the
you
fuck you're talking about.
have, right? It wouldn't have been solved by me just...
Look, I don't know where you are if you're going to use your terrible mic as an excuse to why you lost this,
My
but please fix
terrible
what the
mic?
fuck that background noise is.
What?
The background noise is like I don't even know what's going on currently with your background noise.
It's not me, bro.
Okay, whoever that is, please mute them. Hard. It's Kimura. Kimura, mute your mic.
All right, we continuing this? Yeah, so... Look, Infinity, so given
Who's
that...
winning?
Don't call my name.
So rhetorical. Oh my God. Look, given that a good normative theory just simply is a theory which has an established, grounding to it, presumably that's what you mean by good.
Look,
Given
so just be
that-
clear. One, I was muted. Look, I don't know if that was you because you're scared to
I
debate me or
don't- I'm
something.
not
Secondly,
muting.
I'm going to let you respond,
I'm not
but let me
muting, bro.
clarify something. The argument I asked for was the initial P1. The new P1 is something you can hedge to if you're scared to defend the initial P1.
think I
But you
gave
know
you a
what?
new
Sure.
premise one.
Just for the sake of substance, let's talk about the new argument you're giving currently. So, what's the argument for
You just
P2
interjected to
specifically?
make up
Go
a
ahead.
story about me making a different argument.
What's the argument for P2? Obviously, your retard is going to believe
You
it's a fictitious
interjected to
story.
say that I should continue doing what
I
I'm doing.
interjected to call you retarded. What's the argument for P2?
In the interest of substance, by the way. Are you
That shit
conceding
was so
premise
ass.
one?
What's the argument for P2?
Are you just conceding premise one?
Oh, you're good, goons. Also, there is the possession of P1. I'm agreeing to P1. It wasn't initially said before. The initial P1 I had a question is distinct from the P1 you're verbally giving now because you're
What was
afraid
the
to defend the
distinction?
original position you gave. So,
What was the
moving
distinction?
on to the substance because everybody needs to see you get slayed
You're gonna
rhetorically
try to
and
move away from
substantially.
the fact
What's the
that
argument for
you're lying
P1?
right now by trying to
What's the argument for
concede
P1?
for the sake of the
What's the
debate.
argument for P1 and P2? I apologize, P2.
Blunder, not again, bro.
What's the
Anyway,
argument
look,
for P2?
you remember P2?
What's the argument for P2? You keep on doing this, bro.
Yeah,
I don't know if you're stalling because you're searching for ChatGPT for arguments or something, but what's the
The
argument?
argument for P2, the argument
Is
for
it the case? Okay, go ahead.
Hold on, I'm telling you. The argument for P2 is that the fundamental properties established in our meta-ethical account of good are possessed
What's the
only
meta-ethical
by
account real quick? Repeat it.
the hedonic moral authority account.
Okay, continue.
Right. Those characteristics of goodness are only possessed by the rational egoist normative theory.
Why is that?
Why is that the case? Because the other theories...
Yes,
like,
correct.
they
That's the
argue different
question.
things.
I don't know if you're one of these retard debaters have to repeat every single thing that's said after it was fucking
Do you want me
said.
to, like,
Please
explain
respond
to
to
you,
the
like, why I
question.
know
So
that,
why is
or
it the
do you want me-
case? Hold on. Why is it the case that that's connected? Go ahead.
By why do you mean like how do I know that, or do you mean like why is it the case that other theories don't?
Why is it
like,
true, dumbass?
Like in terms of like truth making or like the justification for the view? Is those
The
different?
justification for the view.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, I mean it's a reductio ad absurdum through the other normative ethical views. So we
Which
can go
is?
through each normative.
How is
So,
the
yeah, we're
other
gonna-
normative ethical views absurd?
It's a reductio ad absurdum in regard to whether or not they would possess Okay, so a reductio ad absurdum is a proof by contradiction.
Look, I know what a reductio ad absurdum is, and that's wait, hold on, just to be clear.
obviously
It is
you don't,
not the
'cause you
case.
don't.
Wait,
The
let me
other views
finish.
are
It is
absurd.
not the case. Hold on, it is not the case. That's retarded. Hold on. Look, I understand that you're going to try to cut me off because there's a ramble fest there,
Yeah, no,
but
I know
that isn't what a
that's why I
reductio
responded
ad
that way.
absurdum
That
is
doesn't make
restricted
sense,
to.
because I know
It's
what I'm
not the
talking
case that a reductio. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me
I know what I'm
finish.
talking
It is
about.
not the
I'm trying to
case
respond
that a
like
reductio is restricted to a contradiction. That is not the case at all. So when you say
That's
that
why-
it's
yeah, I know what I'm
reducible to a
talking about. That's why I
contradiction,
said that.
hold on. Just to be
No,
clear,
no, I know
hold on,
what
is
I'm
that
talking about.
not the
That's why I
claim you just
responded.
made?
That's absurd. The other views are
Wait, so just to
absurd.
be clear, it is the case
Just
that
to
you
be
just
clear,
made the
bro.
claim about restriction when it comes to reductio relative to a contradiction.
I
It does
just
not
said
have to follow that a
restriction
reductio
to-
is restricted to a contradiction.
It doesn't have to be restricted to a contradiction. But like if you had
It
like
doesn't
any
have to be.
semblance of-
That's the claim. What
Right.
you said initially,
And if you had,
which you're
like,
now
any
backing away
semblance-
from because you realized you were
And if you had
retarded,
any-
is that there was restriction. Or at least you said a reductio talks about a contradiction.
if you had like any semblance of sense, you'd interpret my reductio ad absurdum as like a proof by contradiction.
Oh, I'm sorry, maybe you're retarded, but you said a reductio is approved by contradiction. You did not say your reductio was approved by contradiction. I'm just clarifying for the future of the debate
Well,
that a
presumably,
reductio
like,
was
if
not
my
restricted
thing
to
is,
approved
like,
by
a subset
contradiction.
of the
So
thing
look,
I
I don't understand if you're trying to ramble under me, but please respond to the argument.
Oh, I'm responding to an argument or a question? Uh-oh, blunder. Here's
Just
the
to be clear,
dichotomy. Well, how
look,
do you
what I
answer?
said was, hold on. I did give a point about a reductio not being restricted to approved by contradiction.
Am I responding to an argument or a
You
question?
sound like a squeaker, my nigga. Respond to the argument. This is
Am I
not
responding to
rhetorical
a
at all.
question or argument? Hold on. Am I
So
responding
is
to
it
a
the case that
question
you're
or
going to respond to the point?
Wait, am I responding to a question or an argument?
Oh, I'm sorry. You can respond to both.
Oh, you gave me an argument to respond to? Oh, let me respond
I
to that
gave you a
first.
point to respond to, so please respond to the point.
Wait, you gave me an argument? What argument do I need to respond to?
I'm sorry. So look, I already repeated it. Maybe you were listening. This is the last time I'm going to repeat it because this is the fourth or third time. The point that I gave was not the case that a reductio is restricted to approved by
You have an
contradiction. Do you
What's the
disagree with
conclusion
that?
of the argument?
That's the claim currently.
What's
the
the
conclusion is what
conclusion
I
of the
just said, dumbass. I just told you I'm not going to repeat it for the fifth time or the fourth time.
The fifth or fourth time. Oh my
Correct.
god.
That is what I said. I'm glad you're able to recognize what came out of my
Fucking
mouth for
rhetorical
the first
master
time.
right
Now you track that one. Please respond to the point. You commenting on how there's a rhetorical
mastermind, bro.
backshot that's present in the air doesn't mean that there isn't one, dumbass.
Yeah, so let me go ahead and give you the argument.
I'm
Or the
glad that you're finally moving on from that point because you realize you're going to get slammed. Go ahead.
How dare you focus on the meta I brought up? How dare you? Anyway,
How dare you give a point that I can't respond to because I'm so ass. Respond to the fuck argument, my nigga. You're terrible.
All right. So we can
Fake
just
laugh
go
is
one by
crazy.
one
That shit
because
added
the
nothing.
normative- Talking to Mr. Meta right now, bro. Oh my god.
You're talking to a nigga who's slamming you currently. What's the argument?
Did you like the silence after you stopped talking? Like, were you satisfied with your answer there?
No, actually, I wasn't
I mean, I'm not
silent.
gonna lie, we all
just
kinda
clear.
muted, bro.
Hold on, I did not like the silence actually because I love my voice, which is why I keep talking. Please respond to the argument. I hope you know you commenting on how you didn't speak after I spoke doesn't
Can we
do
get
anything.
like mid? Can we get like mid?
Look, did you think you commenting on how there was silence after there was a lack of speaking is rhetorical? Oh, okay. Give the point.
Look, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to go ahead and do what the.
There's no intuition there.
There's no intuition there.
Yeah, I would hope so. So what's the disagreement when it comes to my point?
The point on meta or the substantive?
I know, Goon, like it's so retarded. Half of the VC plus is fucking muted. Obviously, if you don't talk to seem rhetorical, then there's going to be silence. And that's what occurs when somebody's not talking. So I'm going to ask you once again, what's the response to the points and the question?
You have an understanding of conversation like I've never.
Wait, hold on. So is it the case that I'm less of a genius because I pointed that out, or that you're less of a genius for talking about how there was silence in a one-on-one interaction when everybody else is muted?
So is it the case that
Which
you're going to
one?
want me to respond to an argument, or is it the case that you want me to respond to a question?
So is it the case that you're going to respond to the question, or are you going to move on because you're retarded?
I'll move on to what? The
I'm
question?
talking to you, Divinity, if you didn't know. You know, the one-on-one that we're having? Do you think you look good
about
currently,
what you say
Divinity?
before you say it, bro.
Do you think you look good currently?
You like think about what comes out of your mouth before you say it.
Look, I'm sorry, there was a fake laugh there because you realized you were about to stutter. Do you think you look good currently?
I like how you like try
Yes or
to
no?
psychoanalyze me and lie about what I'm doing in the conversation and literally do it so you avoid.
Wait, that wasn't a lie, just to be clear. I'm just pointing out something that occurred.
And look how your
can you
voice
please
lowered,
respond?
they can
Everybody in
very
chat
clearly
is
know I
pointing
caught
out how
you
you're getting
lying.
rhetorically slammed.
Look how I clearly caught you lying. That's why your demeanor changed immediately after.
Wait, what's the lie? What
What's
lie?
changing? It continues to fucking change. You continue to get your voice.
I'm
deeper.
sorry, what's the lie?
Where's the lie? Where's the lie?
Wait, so,
Oh my God, you're-
so is it the case that you can point at
And
a
now
lie
you're
or
fake
not?
laughing, doing
I'm
exactly
actually
the
getting
things that I
excited
was
because you're
doing.
getting slammed. Look,
just, like,
Careless, I hope you
self-report
watch
your
this
own
debate.
tendencies
Look,
in
Careless,
conversation.
I know
Like,
you're
every
new to
time
better,
you start
Careless. This
laughing,
is
it's
not a
like the
good
voice
example
cracks,
of how
like
you
you're
should
getting
debate.
blown out.
This is not a good example of how you should debate, Careless. Make sure you do not take up after Divinity. So we're going to move on from this point. What is the lie that I told you?
All the psychoanalytic
wow, guys,
debate.
Wait, just calm down real quick. People are requesting moderation. Let's just get back to the substance.
No one requested moderation, bro.
Wait, this like a
Literally not
retard
one
guy
of
just
us said
called out
moderation, bro. You're retarded.
This guy said,
Not a singular person in chat is saying
Look, I don't know if
Dude,
you're trying to
no,
save
no,
Divinity.
Moses
Look, I don't know if you're like Divinity's protector or something. You're supposed to be his Maharaga or something, but
Yeah,
applying
that was
moderation
BNL,
when
bro.
nobody
I
in
don't
chat
like
asks for that does not do anything. So this is what we're going to do. Look, Divinity, what is the lie I told you? What is the answer to the initial question I asked you? And then finally, what is your response to the point that I repeated 4 or 5 times? Go ahead.
Yeah, so I actually told you the lie that you said to everyone, and the lie was like,
I'm
the
sorry, that
sentence
was
you
not
think I have.
coherent at all when it comes to that sentence. Please repeat that.
My sentence wasn't coherent.
Ow! It's almost like I just said that 0.1 second prior.
Hey, just like
So
stand-
what's
like,
the sentence there?
just-
I'm sorry.
Just
So
sit
what's
down
the
and
sentence
stop
there? I'm
clapping, bro.
sorry. I'm sorry.
Sit
What was
back
the
down and
sentence
stop
there?
clapping, bro.
I'm sorry. What was the sentence there?
The lie was all the psychoanalytic meta you tried doing.
Wait, hold on. Hey, can you give it a
Why you
specific
keep
example,
laughing
please?
now? What the fuck? This is like literally my point
Can you please give an example?
of the psychoanalytic lying.
Wait, hold on. So the lie is the
Why are you like
psychoanalytic
so
lie.
fucking hyper right now? Just calm down. Like
The reason why I'm hyper is because I love beating up
you're
retards. I already
excited, bro.
told you
You're,
I was
like,
hyper.
excited.
Look,
You're like-
I'm
you're
actually
like
excited for
retard
2
rage.
reasons. One, I'm beating up a retard, and then secondly,
Infinity
I'm having my
System,
students.
now he's, like,
Look, I'm
standing up
having my
and
students witness the opposite of a good debater. You are the opposite of a perfect
opposite of a
debater. You're
good
imperfection. You are terrible. So careless. Model. Make sure y'all take
imperfection,
notes.
bro.
Is Zinni here?
You are
Is Zinni here?
imperfection.
Zinni, make sure you
Someone
take
quote
notes.
this,
Wait,
bro.
hold on. Make
Someone
sure you take notes, Zinni. Please.
Someone quote
So
this,
look,
bro.
this is what we're going to do, Divinity. What are your responses to the 3 things that are currently laid on the table?
I just responded.
I'm
to the first one.
thank you, Careless. Divinity, how do you feel that you're a perfect role model for the worst debater in com besides Haram SpongeBob? How do you feel? Oh, I'm sorry. Was that a mute that you just did?
Sorry, I got called. What'd you say?
Oh, yeah, for sure. You got called because
got
you couldn't
called, bro.
respond. Look, give the argument. Hello? I'm talking
Sorry,
to you
I
if
keep
you
getting
didn't
called.
know.
What did you say?
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, you got another call
Yeah, I
apparently.
didn't know 'cause
What's
I
the
got called.
response? Look. What's the response? It's the same thing that I've
The
asked
response to
prior to
something
you
you said
getting
while
these
I was
random
getting a
made up
call.
calls.
What?
Hello? Did you get a call that time
You think
too?
I'm lying about? You think I'm lying? Like,
Look, I don't know if you're like lying or something to get out of this, but please respond. So it seems like my initial question was answered. The initial question was the following: is it the case that you got worse due to hanging around people like Gabe and shit? I think the answer is pretty obviously yes. You are terrible currently. So I'm gonna ask you once again, what's the argument? Please, I have to pronounce it differently.
Look, I'm moving
something.
to substance, man. I don't know why you're so obsessed with meta.
I'm trying to get to substance, but you're not responding to the 3 points currently locked on.
You think that the conversation about me lying was substantive?
Yes, I actually do.
That's because you're a fucking retard. And if you knew what substance was, you would know
I'm
that.
sorry, just to be clear,
So,
you calling me a
moving back
retard
to
does not
sub-
mean
yeah,
that there's
yeah.
no substance there. I'm asking for the point. Look,
that's not like
I know what you're gonna do. You're gonna
Like,
have
it's
your
just a-
biased
it's
friends
just
book.
like
Hold on.
something
I agree. You're gonna have your biased friends lock and watch over the recording after this, just so you can have a vouch. But please respond to the point.
Bro, you were begging to talk to me, and this is how you perform, bro. You perform
Wait,
like
I'm
a
begging to
circus
talk
animal.
to me. Wait, hold on. You think me
Oh, now you're
asking
back
to
meta.
debate
I
is
said
me
something,
begging?
I poked a meta jab and you just can't resist it, bro. Like a moth to the flame. I pick a little jab at your character and you got to respond to it. So let's move back to substance, okay? Just toughen up, tough guy, okay? So look, I told you that the
I ain't
argument
gonna lie,
for
bro.
premise two-
I wanted to give you a chance
bro,
for
go
the
back to
rhetoric,
meta.
and you
can't
literally
resist it,
just
bro.
failed
You're
so
a creature of
poorly.
habit, bro.
Yo, everybody heard me give him a chance, his own little interview,
You're
his
a
own little
creature of habit, bro.
podcast
You're a creature
section
of habit.
to
You can't.
speak, and it was so bad. So nobody can make the excuse that the only reason why he performed rhetorically bad is because I was speaking over him, because I just gave him his own little section. Did you find that amusing? Did you think? Oh wait, did you think you did something good, Divinity? Divinity, do you think you did something good there?
Look, we're gonna move
Okay,
back
so I'm gonna assume no. So what's the response
to substance.
to the 3 points currently laid on the question?
You
Or on the
keep like
table, I
shotgunning
apologize.
like irrelevant points. I keep explaining.
Yeah,
to
this
you
nigga's
that's
Wait, hold on, just
Yeah.
clear. There was no shotgun. A shotgun, by definition, requires intention, or else there's no reason for it to be fallacious. You cannot justify my intention to overwhelm you.
Oh
Look,
my
if
God,
it is the
where did
case
you
that you
get
can't,
that?
no, if it is the
Wait,
case that you can't respond to 3 points or track 3 points, then you're retarded. I debate Apollo all the time. Apollo, is it not the case? Answer in chat that you're able to track more than 5 points. Do we not have more than 5 points that we have?
I want you
Each
to know
fucking
that by
conversation.
appealing
Look,
to
why is it the
Wait,
case that
wait,
every
wait,
other
wait.
debater is able to track more than 3 points at once, but you're not? Apparently, you're supposed to be the person who beat the best debater in the fucking com, right? You're supposed to be the best, right? Careless can track 3 points. Zinni can track 3 points. Archie can track 20 points. But why can't you?
just let me know when you
Oh,
want to
because
talk
you're
about
asked.
substance,
Respond to
bro.
the point.
I'm good.
20
Just-
is
you wanna talk
outlined
about
this nigga.
substance?
No. Respond to the points.
The points on meta.
The 3 points laid on the table. If
The
you want to
same
drop
points
the
on
meta
meta you
points,
thought
quote
were
unquote, then you
substantive?
can do that. If you
Can
want
we
to
talk
drop the
about the
quote unquote
points on
meta
meta
points
that
because
you
you're trying to
think?
run away, go ahead.
I'm trying to run away from meta, the meta which you find substantive.
I said quote
Meta
unquote,
which you find
obviously, so that entails I probably don't believe they're meta points. But if you want to call the meta as an excuse to why you cannot fucking
You think
attack
like the
them, then you can say
conversation
that.
about
Go
what
ahead.
I'm thinking in the middle of the conversation is substantive?
Look, I'm sorry. One, you're asking the most retarded questions. Secondly,
My question
you're
was retarded
labeling something
because
as
you didn't
meta as an
understand it, bro.
excuse to run away. Thirdly, I'm still waiting for your responses to the points on the
You
table.
think this conversation about my psychological
I think
activity in
everything
the middle
that's
of
in
the
my mind.
conversation is
Look, so what's the
substantive?
argument?
Argument for what?
So it's obviously going to be the argument for which I questioned initially. What's the argument for P2? What's
I
the
thought you
answer
had
to my
3
question?
questions.
And do you have a response to the point I brought up about the reductio?
You want me to give you an argument?
What is
for
the argument
answer
as to
of my
why
question?
every normative ethical view is reduced to absurdity? Additionally, do you have a disagreement with reductios not
Yeah,
being
by
restricted to
absurdity,
prove by
what do you think
contradictions?
Do you remember how I defined the
Is it the
absurdity?
case? Hold on. Look, just be clear. The point I gave was the following. Look, listen, please. I'm going to stop, quote unquote,
Well, very
yelling by
obviously-
whatever your metric is. I'm going to ask you this question. Do you recall the claim I made about reductios?
Yeah, it was like a really bad point.
I'm sorry. Okay, so what was the claim I made?
Yeah, so the point you made was that after I said the proof was a reductio ad absurdum, you said, what makes the other views absurd? And then I explained to you that
Wait, I'm
you're
sorry.
kinda
Hold on.
retarded
That was a
because-
question. That was a question, not the claim I made. I asked you to repeat the claim I made. So what was the claim I made about reductio
Do you
specifically?
recall how I made the point you made? And then
What's
I
the
repeated the
argument? Or I
crucifixion?
apologize. What's the point that I gave? Do you recall it? If you don't, then just say
Well,
that. You don't have to be
I just
embarrassed
gave you
because
the
you have a
point,
lack of
bro.
tracking. You know what? I'm going to go on mute, by the way. Look, go ahead.
that was a good move, man. Yeah, you made some point about
Look,
how.
so I
reductio
gave you a
ad absurdum-
second to speak, and you start off with a shitty
Oh
rhetorical
my
jab.
God,
look, go
You
ahead. I'm going
can't
to give you a
help
5 second
yourself, bro.
interval.
You cannot help yourself, bro. Oh my god.
Correct. Why would I have my students in VC listen to a retard
My
make retard
students, bro.
claims? What
My
the fuck?
students, bro,
Hold
your
on.
GPA is
Wait,
like
do you think
2.7,
it's
right?
rational to have my students in here
Aren't
and
you in
listen to
high school?
retarded claims?
Talking about students, bro. You need to
Hold
focus
on. Do
on
you
your
think
studies,
it's
man.
rational to have my students in here
You think
listen
it's
to someone make
rational to spend
retarded
time on
claims
Discord
because they
instead of
might
hitting the
repeat the
books, bro?
claims?
What do your postgraduate plans look like, Infinity?
What is he talking about? Look, I don't know if you're
Yeah,
trying
of
to
course
talk
you
about
don't
random
fucking
shit
know
because you're
anything about
stunlocked or
postgraduate
something.
plans,
What's the
bro.
point? Okay,
My
can we go back to
students- my-
abortion?
talking about
Can you
students
respond to
in
the 3
VC, but
points?
you're not
So
going to
look, for
college.
everybody in VC,
You're gonna live. You're
the
gonna go and
current
work at
question,
Domino's.
what is the argument as to why there exists reductios for
students-
all normative ethical
What are you
views
talking
besides
about?
egoism?
My students-
Secondly, I don't believe reductios are restricted to a proof by
let me know
contradiction,
when I
which
can
is the claim
continue
that
to
he
speak,
just
bro.
made. And then
I'm gonna
finally,
make your plan
it
myself.
just seems to be the case that he has no actual argument. Go ahead.
Thanks, man. Yeah, so I don't.
Is that what the response?
It's called a preposition,
ahead,
but you know
bro.
that if you hit English class a couple times a week, right?
I'm
So, like,
sorry, that was a
understand
step.
that- They're forgiven. Look, I understand
What?
that whenever I say that there's a reductio ad absurdum, I'm not saying
Well, I would hope that you
ad
understand
absurdum
whatever you say. Why
exclusively.
else would you say it? What's the point, brother? Please preface your conversation or your starting point with something that's actually relevant.
Preface the
I
starting
understand
point
that
with
whenever I
another
say,
preface.
like, obviously, bro, give the point.
Preface the starting point with the starting point. You're a genius, bro.
That's not what I said.
It's what it's implied from what you said.
That's
Like, if you
not
knew the
what's implied
meanings
at
of the
all.
things
Can you
you
please
said,
get
you
back
know
to the
that doesn't-
substance? It's funny how you want to go back to substance, but you keep on talking about irrelevant points.
Well, you
Please,
keep interrupting
please,
me every
please,
time I do.
please
Isn't
talk
that
about
kinda
what you were going to
funny?
talk about. Go ahead.
Don't you find it kind of funny that every time I talk about substance, you go back to meta immediately?
Was that supposed
Oh,
to
wait,
do
that's
something?
substance free. Never mind. You're confused on what the two are. That explains that. Look, so
Anyways, that shit was so ass. Like, like I let you get points of interval because you can't speak over me because you're not a
Define-
man,
spell
and then you
interval,
just
bro.
ruined it. You
Spell
embarrass
interval,
yourself. It's the
Spell
case. You want me to spell what? Interval?
Interval.
INTERVAL. Retard.
Oh, this is really bad for you, bro. Look,
Wait, hold on.
anyway,
How
so
so? Is it the case that I misspelled interval, or did you just say that because you realized I spelled it correctly?
you're a genius, bro.
How did I misspell it? Interval? I literally just spelled it. INTERVAL. Or maybe I misspoke
Oh my
and said
God,
an
wait,
E instead of the
prove
I.
yourself
Did I
down once
misspeak
more.
and say the E? Wait, hold on. Did I misspeak and say an E instead of an I? Is that the
You have
case?
been trying desperately to talk away from the substance and talk about how you
Wait, no, I'm
spell
asking.
interval,
Is it the
bro.
case that I misspoke?
No, actually spell interval for the third time, bro. I didn't hear you. We all
Wait, is
wanna
it the
hear
case
it,
that I misspoke and said an E instead of an I?
I'm really happy that it's important to you that you make it known that you can spell interval.
Wait, you asked me the question, so if you don't believe it's important, why would you ask me?
Yeah, but you also asked me a question and interrupted me, right?
Wait, so hold on. Apollo, if it's not
Yeah,
the case
let-
that I
let-
misspoke
let us
and
hold on.
said,
Yeah,
hold on,
let
if it's
us
not
hold
the
on
case
and
that I
talk about
misspoke and said E instead of
Let
I,
us-
then why are they laughing? Specifically him.
Just let me know when you want me to talk about substance, okay?
I've been asking you this entire time.
No, you haven't. But look,
I have actually.
so on the reductio ad absurdum, just so we don't get this confusion continuing forward. When I say that my view is proved via a reductio ad absurdum, I'm not making a statement or a commitment to saying that reductio ad absurdum exclusively talks about a proof by contradiction relative.
I agree. You said, hold
Right.
on, initially,
So then
hold on, the
your
claim, hold on,
entire-
I agree when you say it like
Why are
that.
you
But the
interjecting?
initial claim, I'm
Fucking
sorry, I don't
hate.
think I was done.
Calm down.
The initial
Calm
claim
down.
was that a
Relax.
reductio is a proof by
Can you, like,
contradiction, not
control
that
your impulses, bro? You are actually primitive. You exist at this, like, primitive,
and a
animalistic level
reductio
where
are
you're
different. That's a different
Control your
sentence.
thoughts.
Just to be clear, when you say the reductio is a proof by contradiction, and we say a reductio is a proof by contradiction, those are distinct. Now, what's the argument as to why every other normative ethical view is reduced to a contradiction or some type of absurdity?
It's a contradiction with the
Infinity,
meta-ethical
just
character.
let him
engagement.
finish his argument. Just
Wait,
like
what's the
don't
argument?
interrupt at all. Yeah, just
What's the
like
argument?
let him finish. You know, yeah, you don't have to interrupt every single sentence. So like make like a meta rhetorical jab.
All right. What's
Let
your
him
argument,
do every
Divinity?
single thing. Take
What's
turns.
the point, Divinity?
Oh my
What's the
god, bro!
argument of interruption?
The fucking anime grandmasters are converging on this point.
Bro, are you retarded,
Yeah,
bro?
you're so corny, bro. Just respond to the fucking
my
argument,
God.
bro.
Your ancestors are being
I
channeled.
apologize. Give the argument.
All right. Yeah, so let's just go retort. Let's go view for view, okay? So
I'm sorry, that was a stutter.
obviously- It was a stutter. You're a genius, bro. So let's just go
Thank
view
you.
for view, okay?
Go ahead.
Yeah. So very clearly with non-ontologically committing moral theories, those obviously aren't going to have any kind of moral authority given that hedonic valence is a real thing, which explains moral authority. So given that morality wouldn't be a real thing, would follow that they don't have real things like hedonic
Can you
valence.
speak
to them.
faster?
I could, yeah, but you probably wouldn't understand it and interrupt me, right? So I'm just speaking slowly. So we
No,
don't have to
speak
repeat
faster.
ourselves.
Or you can send the argument typed out.
All right, so do you agree with...
Do you have the
views
argument
on
typed
class?
out?
No, I don't. Actually, I do have this typed out.
Okay, can you send it in? Do they have a scans? No. Can you send it in VC chat?
Do they have a scans? In the Big
Channel,
2.5,
yes.
we're talking about having scans.
No, you send
bro.
it in justification chat, bro.
I ain't gonna lie. I never asked if they had scans as in images. I was talking about the channel, obviously.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
I'm glad.
Yeah, I mean, I do have a paper on this. You can give it a little read if you'd like. But
No, I would like you to send the argument typed out.
do you think I'm going to give you like a deductive argument?
Wait, hold on. So the answer to the question of whether or not you have an argument was yes. So is it the case that you have an argument, or is it the case that you have a paper in which explains a concept?
Arguments aren't all deductive formal arguments.
What does that have to do with anything I just said? I'm asking for the argument typed out.
Well,
In
what it
response,
has
you
to
said
do-
yes,
what
and
it
now
has
you're
to
talking
do
about a
is
paper.
what it has to do is a paper is a format in which an argument can take.
I'm sorry. So does the paper contain the argument typed out, or is it an explanation of a concept?
The explanation proving the truth of a view is called an argument.
Maybe you're retarded. Just because it explains something doesn't mean it's explaining why it's true. It can be an explanation as to what it means, but it doesn't have to be an explanation. Hold on, just to be clear, it doesn't have to be explanatory power towards why the conclusion is true or the concept is true. It can be an explanation for clarity of the concept. So I'm asking you, is it the case that the
it's an
paper is an explanation of clarity, or is it the case that the paper is an explanation of truth?
It's both.
So send that, please. That's all you had to say. That was the
You want to
question.
read the 21-minute paper right now for everyone?
No, I would like you to send the argument.
The argument is the paper, retard.
Yeah, I'm asking you to obviously fucking formalize it or type it out in chat.
I'm not going
Retard.
to formalize the entirety of a paper for you. I just deliver the argument to you verbally, and you can understand it.
Go ahead. That's why I asked if you had it typed out.
I was, and then you said, "Do you have a typo?" Like you need to see it in front of you because you.
Yeah,
can't,
maybe you're retarded. You just repeated what I said. Correct. Because obviously you don't have
I'm
any.
repeating what
You know what?
say
Just
'cause
go.
I'm mocking you. for
Look,
being
just
retarded.
go. Before we make excuses about there not being any substance, give the fucking argument.
Right. So I just gave a reductio on one of the views in the meta-ethical or the moral.
I'm sorry, what was the reductio there?
On the relaxed views?
Go ahead.
I just gave it to you. Were you there?
Maybe you weren't listening, so I'm going to ask
it's
again.
one of those
I'm sorry.
moments
What were the
where you, like,
reductio? Hold on. I'm
understand
sorry. What did? Hold on. I'm sorry. Wait, I don't think I'm done. What were
Wait,
the
was this one of
reductios?
those moments where you understood it but didn't recall it? Like
I'm sorry.
Is that
What were the
where we're going?
reductios? Also, I never said there was a single moment in this debate where I didn't
You're
recall something or I didn't
unable to
understand it. What I
fucking
said
go
was
away
just
from that.
because
I
I
love
potentially
that.
not. Hold on.
You
What
are
I said
so
was just
lucky
because
for
I
that,
don't
bro.
potentially
Every
recall something
single
doesn't mean
bit
that there's
of commentary on
a
that
lack
is
of
what
understanding
you
or even existing understanding. That's what I said.
must
So I'm
message
asking,
in the
what's the
podcast.
argument? Hold on. I'm sorry. What was the reductio towards the relaxed views? Because what you
Fact,
said
bro.
was
If
me
you
saying that there's a
fact,
reductio doesn't mean that there's a proof by contradiction, even though that's what you hedged initially. So what was the reductio towards the lax views? I don't recall any reductio given at all, actually.
Do you understand it said, or do you recall it?
I'm sorry, what was the reductio given towards the relaxed views?
Are you saying that because you didn't hear it or because you didn't understand it?
Oh my
Is it the case that there was a is it the case that there's a reductio given to the relaxed views?
Yeah, I gave it earlier.
Okay, then I obviously didn't hear it, maybe if there was one.
I clearly didn't hear it. Maybe if there was one. You're fucking.
That's not what I said. I said I obviously didn't hear it. Maybe if there was one, maybe I did hear it, but I didn't just see it as a reductio. So do you believe it's the case that you could have gave a reductio, but I don't see it as a reductio because it's retarded? Therefore, I might not acknowledge it as a reductio.
You have
Is
the
the case?
most unreliable memory.
Is it the case that there may exist a reductio in which is a reductio in your view, but I don't acknowledge it as a reductio?
Right. Yeah.
So yes, the answer is obvious. Because you're scared to answer because it's going to defeat your rhetorical job. The answer is yes. Correct.
Because
Yes.
I'm going to your
Just
rhetorical
because
job.
there exists a reductio under your view doesn't mean I consider a reductio. Therefore, there can be a lack of acknowledgement of a reductio given. Now,
Someone
what's the
please
argument?
fucking transcribe this and like put it back in front of them, bro.
What's the argument, bro? What's the reductio?
I gave you the reduction. I'll give it to you again.
I don't believe you did.
I grant that you don't believe that because you're retarded and you wouldn't believe it. Given
I'm
that
sorry, that is retarded as fuck. Give the point?
it is retarded as fuck that you don't remember what I said to you. I agree.
No, I'm saying
The
you are
point I made.
retarded for trying to comment on someone's memory, even though I just gave the possibility of me
I just gave
acknowledging the fact
possibility
that
of
there
me
is something that
acknowledging the
exists,
fact
but not
there is
acknowledging
something
that there's a
exists, but not
reductio.
acknowledging the fact
So
that there's
is it the
a
case, Divinity? Look. Okay, look. I was actually being charitable, so you didn't embarrass yourself prior. So I'm gonna ask you again, and I want you to answer this. Don't run away like all your friends do. Is it the case that there can be an existing reductio that you gave verbally under your view, but I don't acknowledge it as a reductio?
So is that what's happening right now?
The answer is yes. Again. So what is the reductio
You don't take what
towards
I
the
said.
relaxed views?
Because there's a
Do you think you
contradiction.
justified your position so far?
Yeah, insofar as you've allowed me to speak. Yep.
Hold on. So do you believe it is true? The claim relative to egoism. Do you believe it's true?
The claim relative to holy shit, bro. You cannot.
The
speak
claim
and
that
type
you
at the same
made
time.
relatively
Very
to
clearly, whenever you
egoism's
start typing, you
truthfulness,
turn off
do
your
you
fucking
believe
brain.
it has
Even
been
more,
justified so far?
Right, you achieve another level of retard whenever you start typing because you speak the way
I'm
you
not
do
even
that.
typing, retard. Your rhetorical job doesn't even apply to me because I'm not even the one typing. So what's the argument?
Look, man. Is you take it to be the case that the explanation I gave
I'm
you was
looking.
a
I don't see any
reductio?
argument.
Is that because you don't understand it or you don't think it's a reductio?
If I don't see an argument, that has nothing to do with understanding.
I gave an
It's just the
argument.
case that,
Holy shit.
hold on, just to be clear, are you going to give the point?
I gave you the point. Now I'm asking you, is your contention?
I don't
the
believe
fact
you
that
did.
didn't
So
hear it?
repeat the
so is
reductio
your-
if you
is your
believe you gave
holdup-
one.
Hold on, dude. You put some rhetorical roadblocks in the road, right? I'm trying to clear them out.
What are you talking about, bro? That shit is so ass, bro. Give
So
the
look,
reductio,
is it
please.
the case that you did not hear me? Did you not understand me, or did you understand me and you just?
Yeah,
don't
so
think it's
look,
a
maybe you
reductio?
weren't listening. I'm going to say this again. There's multiple alternatives. It could be the case that I
Option
didn't hear
one,
you. It
which
could be the
one's
case that
true?
you gave a retarded argument
one's
or
true?
view. However, I didn't acknowledge it as a reductio because it is the
So
case that it
which
doesn't follow that as a reductio. So
Which
is
one
it the
of these
case
possible
that it's
realities do I
possible?
live in?
Because I've
Is the
already
first
answered
one
this
the
question,
second
but maybe you
one,
didn't track. Is it the case that it could be
The first
possible
one,
that you
the
gave a
second one, or the
reductio
third
under
one?
your view, but I don't acknowledge it as one?
So which reality are we living in?
Look,
One,
since
two, or
you're
three?
running away from the question, let's ask someone else. Can someone make a poll, specifically you, Zinni? Send the poll. Is it the case? Hold on. Hey, Zinni,
This is
create
your
a
best
poll.
performance
Is it the
yet,
case
bro.
that it's
This is
possible? Hold on.
literally
Is
your
it the
best
case that it's
performance.
possible for a reductio to exist, but me not acknowledging it as a reductio because it's obviously a retarded point?
I grant that's possible.
Since he doesn't want to get to the substance.
I'm not getting to substance right now.
Yes, the fake lab doesn't save you there. What's the argument?
Is that because you don't think it's an argument, or is that because you didn't hear it?
I think I've already answered this question.
You didn't actually. You just told me it's possible that
Look,
this
so
one thing happened.
look.
Look. Just give me, is it one, two, or three?
Look, it's just the case that everybody in chat believes that you're getting embarrassed currently, which is why the poll is you losing. And yes, it's possible that the poll is true.
It's possible. both.
So what's the point? Like I have to act like a retard when I'm debating you because you don't
So-
understand basic shit.
So, do you take the explanation I gave to be a reductio, or do you not understand the explanation I gave?
The entire point is I can't determine whether or not an explanation exists because if it was an explanation that existed in which would be determined as a reductio under your view, I wouldn't consider it or acknowledge it as one, or I didn't hear it. I believe
Oh,
it's the
fucking-
latter,
I do.
obviously.
I think with that wonderful.
And I think you're
wonderful
retarded. So what's the reductio?
As in, like, what's the explanation?
Hello, I'm
and
talking
how
to you
is
if you
the
didn't know.
explanation reductio?
What's the
Like, what is your
reductio?
question aimed at?
What
are
is
you
the
aimed at
reductio
understanding
that you
how it's
gave towards the
reductio?
relaxed views?
Are you wonderful? Because relaxed views are going to say that moral properties and morality.
I'm
isn't
sorry, I
real.
wasn't answering any question that you gave, if that's what you believe. So what was the reductio towards the relaxed views? Because that's the comment you made.
What did you just interrupt me to say? Like, what could have possibly been the
You
value?
mean,
of
what did I
crossing over?
interrupt you to ask? Just be clear. What I asked was, what was the reductive you gave
What I
towards the
asked
relaxed
was-
views?
Firstly, I never asked you what you asked me. Okay, lock in. Secondly,
That shit was ass as fuck. I said asked.
oh my god. Look, man, I'm gonna give this shit like 5 minutes, and we're gonna move to closing. Okay.
If you don't justify your position, that's your fault. But yeah, so what's the reductio?
I just want everyone to understand you're speaking from your perspective as like the retard.
I'm sorry,
talking to,
what's the
right?
reductio? I'm actually speaking from an objective lens. But what's the reductio?
The reductio is that moral authority is real, and React's views wouldn't be able to account for its reality. You know, the view is
Wait, why? Wait, hold on. Why is it the case that moral authority is real?
because it's hedonic.
What's the connection?
To hedonism and reality.
Nope.
The connection between what then, retard? Like what?
The claim you made, retard, and then the conclusion you're trying to infer from the initial premise. Why is it the case that those two things in telereductio pair together? Additionally, if you would like to move to closing after this, it would not follow that tradition is justified. Do you
You're gonna
believe
wanna
if we
move to
concluded right now that your claim overall is justified?
I don't think I've been allowed to fully explicate my view because you're
Okay,
incapable
then
of controlling
please
your
fully do it,
animalistic
bitch.
impulses. Are you gonna lock in and catch a bubble? Are you gonna patiently sit there and
Anyways,
wait?
I'm just gonna let the silence air that out. Please respond to the point.
Yeah, I was. You asked me a question, and now you're refusing to elaborate what the question was aimed at.
I'm sorry, I did elaborate actually. It's just the case that you didn't understand the elaboration. So
'Cause it was
what's the
retarded, yeah.
reductio? Hold on. Just because you
That's-
gave the
that's
reductio
expected
again,
under what I
what's
said.
the justification for the reductio actually in telling a contradiction? I'm sorry.
So, in other words,
Without
what's
the assumptions that I
justification
don't
the
grant.
explanation is reductio? What assumption are you not granting?
I'm not. Hold on. I'm not granting the assumption I talked about. Obviously, the connection
Connection between what? Do you even know what
between the
contradiction
conclusion
I'm
and the
trying
claim,
to make
as
is?
I've said, retard.
What's the alleged contradiction that I'm trying to propose right now?
Oh my God, you're saying it's not the case, or you're saying it's the case that what you said is incompatible with reality. Obviously,
Yeah, like what's the incompatibility, retard?
the incompatibility is between the fact that you talked about how a moral authority
what
will not be able to
fact?
exist under this view. Cannot finish. The moral authority cannot exist under this view, and it would be compatible with reality. That's the contradiction you were talking about.
Yeah, and why
That
would
was
it
the
be
claim in which you
incompatible? That's
connected. So
fucking-
what's the
that's
argument
thing.
as to why there's connection?
why is it
I don't care about you
incompatible?
reflecting questions and turning this into a
What's
Q&A
the
on my end.
alleged
I'm currently questioning your view.
incompatibility?
What's the point?
It's like very clear that the reason.
And when you
you're
ask me, just to be clear, when you ask me what's the incompatibility, I don't believe there's
Yeah,
incompatibility, which is why I'm challenging the view, obviously.
That's why I said alleged.
So look, what's the point?
That's why I said alleged, retard. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I know you said alleged, and I'm going to say I don't believe
So then
that
why
the
did you
alleged
make
is
the idea
relevant,
that I was
dumbass. I'm not going to
committed
answer that.
conceding to you that. Oh my
Look,
god, bro.
look. I don't know if you're trying to get me to say your point so I can seem retarded and get clipped out of nowhere. Look, please respond.
Y'all niggas still going.
I'm talking to you.
Hey man, I think this is a good point to move to
I'm
closing.
sorry.
man.
So what's the argument for egoism? It doesn't seem like your argument follows or your reductio entails a contradiction. Do
Yeah,
you
sorry,
think
I
if-
got- I
hold on.
got
Do you
it.
think in some impossible world where you gave a question which was the following, where's the incompatibility on my end? In some impossible world where I failed to
Yeah,
answer,
sorry, I got
do
a
you
call.
believe your
You still
claim is
going?
justified?
Sorry, I got a call. You still going?
This nigga must be the
Yeah, so
president.
do you
y'all.
believe in some impossible world where you ask a question, which is the following, what's the incompatibility on my end, and I fail to answer? Is it the case that your claim is justified about egoism? Yes or no?
Oh, it's just like a fucking arbitrary semblance of words, man.
Wait, so just to be clear, is it the case that your claim
Look,
about
man,
egoism is
look, we're gonna have to-
justified
we're gonna have to- let's
if
just
the question you gave goes unanswered?
We're gonna move to closing, bro. Okay.
Look, so since you're scared to answer the question, the answer is obviously
I'm
no,
literally
it is not
busy,
the
bro.
case
I'm
that you
literally busy.
justified the claim just because there's a lack of a response to the question, even though there is a response to the question, actually. But we can conclude.
Yeah. Okay. Go for it, man.
So it seems to be the case. Like, I'm going to give just a short summary. Throughout the entire debate, he was just getting rhetorically shit stomped. He was scared of the substance. He can say that I was scared of the substance, even though I let him speak during multiple intervals and he just kept on saying bullshit, which is why I interrupted and made sure that he stayed on track. Every single time I asked, which you can go back to the recording, by the way, every single time I asked about the points that were laid about, or I apologize, the points that were put on the table, the 3 points at the start, actually, the question, the point about the reductio, and then the initial question that I asked. Every single thing went unanswered until the end of the debate, which he talked about there being an incompatibility with relaxed views, actually. And then I asked for the reductio, and he didn't justify after questioning the connection with the reductio and how it is actualized. He didn't justify the connection between the premise and then the conclusion, how that entails a contradiction, and then how that applies to reality. He didn't answer at all, actually. So it just seems to be the case that via everything that was argued, he did not give anything in which successfully, I apologize, it successfully establishes his conclusion. Go ahead.
Okay, cool. I'm gonna keep this kind of short because I'm busy. I think anybody who has like any semblance of understanding of anything we're talking about knows that this guy just like arbitrarily threw a bunch of words together and just kept like interrupting me.
Do you think
And
that's
then,
going to cause you to win?
How are you still unable to stop interrupting me?
Oh,
Like,
I'm
in the
sorry.
clip-
Look, I'm not one of these retarded ass,
What?
shitty ass, fucking philo debaters you debate, nigga. Just
Anyway,
because
this
it's
is just,
conclusions
like, a
doesn't mean I'm going to
further-
let
this
you
is further
speak.
Evidence and exemplification of the broader point that Infinity is unable to control his animalistic urges in the middle of a conversation, which is precisely
shit
why
did not
he's
hit, bro.
unable to give any
cut off
substantive or
everybody.
intellectual response to a single thing that I said, and why he'll
This
continue
Infinity
to
guy
go
is an
on
animal.
about
Yo,
the
everybody
entire-
saw this dude. Hey, Saab Jonathan, bro. He obviously wants attention, bro. Hey, everybody saw Jonathan, bro. He obviously wants attention. All right, finish your conclusion, retard.
Anyway,
Are you done?
he's the animal.
Oh, Jonathan, are you
point-
happy you got the conclusion
on
you
the
wanted?
on the actual substance, bro. What? Can we get like a mod like muzzle the animal?
Yeah, that shit did not hit either. Do not mute me. You can conclude. I'm not going to overtalk you since you're so scared of my voice for some reason.
You say that and then you fucking behave like that. Anyway.
Anyways,
Look, I mean, on these substantive points, right? The only thing that was quote unquote substantive.
the reason why he's specific. Hold on. Just to be clear. The reason why he's specifying that is because he admits to losing on every other point.
I can't even.
But go ahead.
Look, just let
No,
the
I'm
fact
gonna
of
go on mute,
interrupting
go
you
ahead.
serve as the closing, bro. I think I've made the point. Thanks, guys.
Oh, okay. So is it the case that you believe you lost in every other facet of the debate because you keep on specifying the substance point? I'm going to assume that's a yes. Okay. Someone save the recording since he's pretending to be on mute because he doesn't want to give an answer.